Hey, you're back in the garage with TheEZGZ. I wanted to give you guys an update on my 1993 Toyota 4x4 with 4-cylinder 22RE engine. My timing chain broke, and before I go any farther, I want to thank everybody that answered my call for help and left comments on that last video. I'm going to go ahead and take that down because it's I've learned a lot. Instead of asking, I've got some information now. I did receive my shop manuals. It cost me 161 bucks for these 3 books, and I think I definitely got my money's worth. The first half of the first book on engines is for the 4-cylinder, and the second half is for the V6. This one is all about the drivetrain and some electrical issues, and the third book deals with some body and air conditioning options. So I found the answers I was asking questions about. This particular engine is not an interference engine, and the timing chain broke while it was in motion. Here's the second half that was curled up in the bottom, and you can see how this is kind of in a bind, and there's definitely some wear there. This timing chain tensioner should not be grooved like that. All the ones I've seen that are replacements appear to be smooth. It had a single row chain in it, and I'm decided I'm going to upgrade it to a double row chain, and I'll explain why. My original theory was that the guides, which are right here, appear at this point to be complete, but this one is broken. There's some stuff missing, but it's separated in the back, but it appears like it's all there. This side does not look like anything happened to it, and that tensioner comes out along this piece right here. The sprockets are badly worn, the chain is badly worn, and the timing chain cover, as you could see, would be up against the cast iron engine block right here. And when I got the cover off, I'll show you what I found. Look at those 2 long grooves going up and down the side of the cover. And if you hear the death rattle of chain in your 22RE, you better get it replaced ASAP. The problem is that this portion, this is where the valve guide sits on the other side of this. If the guide comes apart and doesn't wipe out the chain, and it continues to rub like this, it will come into the water side, and you will contaminate your oil, and engines don't run very good on oil and water. Obviously, this cover was not replaced. I believe I mentioned, because I heard the death rattle in this truck when my son-in-law owned it, and he bought it brand new, and I told him he needs to get that addressed ASAP. So whoever he got to do it did it the minimal amount and did not use any upgraded parts. Some aftermarket companies had come out with a metal back guides, and these pieces of aluminum were laying in the bottom of the pan in the front, and they came apparently from right in this area here when that chain wadded up. I kind of remember like a little jerk, but you can see the way the casting, the way it rubbed. I think that was after the chain broke, and that just plopped off you can see by the inside of this that it looks like a pretty, it's cast aluminum, and it just snapped. It doesn't look like it wore from the chain gradually. The oil does not appear to be contaminated, and neither was the oil filter. So it's a good thing in the long run that I did have to take this pan loose. And I don't know if the two-wheel drive versions of this truck have a this has got the four-wheel drive baffle. Maybe all of them do. And in order to clear the oil pickup, I had to remove the front differential, and this is what it said to do in the book. If you had two-wheel drive, it said remove the oil pan and remove all the bolts from the timing chain cover and proceed with caution. On the four-wheel drive model, and I spent a week trying to avoid taking this thing out because these nuts that were on these flanges were just the way the tulip is what they refer to it in the book, behind that cross member there. There's just not a way to get at it with a impact wrench or even some good half-inch drive stuff. They just snapped loose when each one of them came, and of course I took it to the car wash already and spent a couple bucks on getting that cleaned up. I wished I'd have done the oil pan, but that was just one thing at a time. They do not use a gasket on the oil pan. It is a silicone seal, and looks like it wasn't as bad. It wasn't stuck on as bad as I thought it was going to be. And I did want to show you, as long as we've got all this stuff apart, let's go underneath and take a peek. And I've been doing some measuring on the bottom. I've been trying to decide whether I want to spend $400 on the upgraded double roller timing chain conversion kit, which includes a new cover, a double row timing chain, a tensioner, the double row sprockets, a blueprinted brand new oil pump seal, and water pump for $400. I don't think that's a bad value. You can buy some. Sorry, here I'm getting underneath. Give you a look from the bottom side here. This thing just looks magnificent. There's just some oil droplets on that screen. That's not contamination. And look at the size of that oil pump pickup. I don't know why everything has that golden kind of a oily, you can't feel anything. It just looks, if that was from that BG 109 treatment I gave to it 1,000 miles ago, there's very, very minimal crankshaft end play. They use thrust washers on the center main cap. There's 5 main bearings on this. I was going to take and plastic gauge these rods and mains, but I don't think in this position I would do justice with squishing that plastic, because the weight of the crankshaft and just the things that just wouldn't be right. And my thrust side to side on the connecting rods here, the book calls out between 6 and 10 with a maximum clearance of 12. That's between the cheek of the crank and the side of the connecting rod. And both these connecting rods that are in the down position have 7/1000s dead on, both of them, with a feeler gauge. So that makes me feel good. And the lack of thrust on the having the proper thrust, I don't think I'm going to risk moving stuff around. And the standard bearings that come in these things, they make 3 different size standard bearings. Typically on American vehicles and rebuilds, you have the crank turned or the connecting rods reconditioned, and you use an oversized bearing by, you know, that goes in tens of thousands, 10 over, 20 over, and so forth. But this is odd, and I'm not gonna pursue that. And I'm gonna go ahead and spin. You can see the bottom of the pistons here, and if you look inside, there's just no. This engine was not overheated, and it had its oil changed regularly, even prior to the B&G. But there must have been some carbon buildup in the rings, and the book says that the top ring and the oil rings are stainless steel, and the second ring is some type of cast material, cast iron or something. I can't remember what it said, but looking good. The oil pump itself, the oil pump itself had no scratches. It looks great, and considering the guy didn't do the complete job, I wouldn't be surprised if he reused the oil pump. And this engine has got like 250,000 miles on it. So I just thought I'd document this, and thank you all again for your help and support. And I'm gonna go ahead and start cleaning this up and get it back on. I have not ordered the parts. I wanted to see the general condition of this before I decided whether to do this as cheaply as possible or to upgrade that timing chain. I never did get a compression check on it, so I don't want to take the head off. I want to leave everything the way it was and get it back together and get it running, and then do a compression check and see if where my cylinders are. The book calls out 171 psi new and 140 minimum, with 14 pounds difference in cylinders, the maximum. And I'm going to see where I'm at. Obviously, with a broken chain, I was never able to do that. Having a good timing chain setup that is properly spot on, and new spark plugs, new distributor cap, new rotor. I remember, I don't know if I showed you guys that before, that rotor was just horrible. This is the new cap, but all that ignition stuff, I'm surprised it started and ran as good as it did. But yeah, here's, I'll stop it here. But the rotor was broken, and typically those are shiny brass, and it just nasty looking. So a lot of deposits on the terminals inside the cap as well. But yeah, this thing ought to run, hopefully be running again soon. Gonna have to wait on parts, but just wanted to give you guys an update. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subbing. TheEZGZ out.